Such as the dearth of support for active management, the best supporting quote I could find came from a pretty unusual source. George Orwell. Never use the passive where you can use the active. And of course, it's completely irrelevant for my speech. Even the great Warren Buffett's been getting in on the act. Here you see his quote supporting passive investment. So the immediate question is, why would we consider an active approach for some of our clients? Well, our answer is that we believe equity markets are not perfectly efficient. In fact, the inefficiencies, we believe, are caused primarily by the behavioural biases of market participants and the structural impairments that arise from their allocations of capital. While the structural impairments vary by region, sector and size of market, the behavioural biases persist. And we believe that with an active approach, if you have a manager that's aware of these biases and that can benefit from understanding them, then they can add value through time. So why hasn't this worked, and why is there so much negative press around this at the moment? Well, lots of people are pointing fingers at each other, but actually my view is that we all share the blame. Fund managers, firstly, as we all know, many funds charging active fees for passive returns, and that's clearly not sustainable. Growing the funds too large at the expense of future investors. These are all well-known facts. But actually, I believe the consulting industry is partly to blame also. Many people in the industry fuel this behaviour by allocating capital to funds that have performed well in the past, growing that asset base at the detriment to their clients. Unfortunately, many people are incentivised to focus on these large funds that have the most capacity so that they can distribute that to the widest range of their clients. And in doing so, they gain money from the fees that they do per search. Investors too are not without blame. One of the key things that we see is people confusing presentation skill for investment skill. And that's typically found in the fund manager parades, or the beauty parades as we used to call them. Many people, we all fall foul of behavioural biases that occur in these kinds of environments. And firing managers after a period of short performance is one of the most typical things, cause huge detrimental value to their clients. So what can we do about this? Well, we think there's some pretty easy wins, in fact. So fund managers, charge fees relative to the risk that's taken and the capacity that's available in that product. Note that's completely different to what many market participants are saying, which is basically low fee, please. Now, we actually believe that our clients should look at returns on a net of fees basis. So therefore, paying a higher fee for a product which has lower capacity, is taking more risk, may actually make sense. Of course, that needs to be done in the framework of limiting capacity. So what do Redington do? Well, I'm yet to come across a fund manager that's willing to give me the past returns of one of their funds. So please do come to me if you're willing to offer that. Of course, we can't look backwards, we have to look forwards. So the way we do that is through a style lens. What we want to understand is the underlying investment style which the fund manager is operating under. Then we try and find a competitive advantage over and above that pure style exposure, and then we look to see how sustainable that is over the long term. Of course, our business structure's structured completely different to most of our peers and enable us to take a long-term view on our ratings and think about our clients' interests over the long term. Well, we also have a particular focus with our investors on focusing on the end in mind. We're not going to peddle active products that charge high fees to clients that don't need to generate the returns. So we focus this type of research on the clients that need to generate those returns and take the risks. We help them understand their behavioural biases, and we limit some of these by having a very focused approach to manager research. We won't put 5 managers in front of them and ask them to select a manager. We keep our list very narrow for a reason. And of course, we fire managers occasionally, unfortunately, but that's because of style drift, process change or team change, rather than a short period of poor performance. So what do we like? Well, we like both fundamental and quantitative approaches. And our view really is it depends on the client's governance budget and risk profile that they need. For a fundamental approach, we really are focused on the philosophy. We want a compelling philosophy that's grounded in empirical evidence and backed by behavioural finance. We want that to be implemented consistently through cycle. Generally, that manifests itself in high active share, concentrated portfolios of people's best ideas, and really a focus on limiting assets. We also like quantitative approaches, and here we're trying to get factor exposure for our clients. So we want a blend of factor exposures. We want a sophisticated proprietary risk model, and we want the manager to be able to rebalance that portfolio in a timely manner. So what have we done over the last year? Well, as always, with Redington, our decisions have been driven by the demands and the needs of our clients. And that's led us to some rather unusual areas which we think we can add some real value. For example, we've allocated capital to Europe small cap, Japan, US small cap. But as well as that, we're building out our research in more conventional areas such as global equities. But our approach is different. We focus on the underlying investment style, quality, value, and momentum. And we operate our approach trying to find added value over and above that style exposure. And of course, we continue to build out our research, and we will do so over the coming years. Emerging markets, Europe large cap, UK, these are all areas that we're going to be researching in the next year.